how to bake sourdough bread. Yeah. Let's start off with our main ingredient, good quality flour. We also need rice flour to prevent sticking of the dough, sea salt, olive oil, this specific bowl. If you don't own a banneton, you can just use a regular bowl with a towel inside. You're also going to need a bread lame or a sharp knife to score your loaves. Lastly, you're going to need a sourdough starter. This one's ready for action. And that's it. Let's begin. To start, you're going to weigh out your flour. Now, 1 cup at a time, we're going to make our way all the way up to 800 grams of this good. We can add that to the mixing bowl. And to that, we will add 16 grams of salt. Go ahead and mix that by hand until it's all incorporated. Now, I failed to mention that you needed water earlier, but if you don't have access to water, you probably have bigger problems. Just make sure you have 650 grams of that stuff. And to that, we're going to add our sourdough starter. This is 150 grams of sourdough starter. Just mix that in until it's fully dissolved. Now we can go ahead and add all of our wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, starting off with our sourdough starter and water. Pour that all in. Make sure you get every last drop. This is 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Pour that directly in and mix all of this together by, you guessed it, your hand. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Just go ahead and mix this all together until it is fully incorporated and all of the flour is saturated with the wet ingredients. You could use your regular tabletop to knead this dough, but I like to keep the mess contained, so I have another work surface which I will go ahead and empty out my dough onto. This bench scraper is a very useful tool to have when manipulating your dough. You're going to start off the process. It's going to be very messy at first. Everything is extremely sticky and it doesn't really feel like it will ever turn into bread, but you just have to trust the process. Slowly knead by hand at first, and then eventually when your dough thickens up a bit more, you're going to move on to what is called the slap and fold method. So just like it sounds, you slap and fold the dough, slap and fold until it starts to come together. Now this will take about 30 minutes. You just continue to do this until your dough builds up strength and comes together. You can use this as an opportunity to meditate about life. Consider how happy you are that you could afford rent this month. So as you see now, the dough is fully strengthened and it stretches quite considerably. So now I know I'm ready to put it into this bowl. At this stage, the dough needs some time to rest, so I'm going to cover it with this towel. The towel is damp a little bit. I'll set that aside for 30 minutes and use this time to contemplate why I even decided to bake bread in the first place, because now I have to wash all of these dishes. But you know, at least I'll have some delicious bread in my future, so let's just get on with it and go ahead and wash everything. So I'm wetting my hands after the dough has rested. I'm folding it north, south, east, and west. And in between this, I will let it rest for another 20 minutes. I will do this process for a total of 6 times. And as it's doing this, it's slowly fermenting, building that sour taste. And at the end, you can see the dough is totally congealed and separate. So it easily comes out of the glass bowl when I tip it over like this. Plop. Love it. What a wonderful, beautiful dough this is. Very fun to work with at this stage. I'm going to separate it off into 2 sections because I'm going to eventually have 2 loaves from this one recipe. So after I separate them off, I'm going to let them rest, poke any air bubbles because I don't want these to flake off while it bakes. And I'm going to use that rice flour to dust them in preparation for putting them inside of their baskets. Looks beautiful. All right, so here are my bannetons. I'm going to do the towel method just because not everybody has bannetons, and this is a very foolproof method. So I'm dusting my work surface and flipping over one of the loaves here to begin the folding process. This is going to shape the gluten fibers within the dough and make for a better loaf and crumb, as they say in the baking world. So I'm slowly taking the edges, stretching them, folding them in, and folding them in. Here you go again, stretch and fold. And once I get to the end, I'm going to do it one final time and then roll from one end to the other, similar to a cinnamon roll. Using the bench scraper, I will pull it taut and then flip it into my basket. Same with the other one, a little bit more rice flour, and I'm going to tuck these guys in for the night. These have to vibe out in the refrigerator overnight. You can go up to 2 days, depending on how sour you want them to be.
Very next day, he gave it.
I will go ahead and take them out of the refrigerator and check how well they proofed. Looks amazing, very dry. It's exactly what you want for a good crust. So I'll start off by taking out my Dutch ovens, and I'm going to put a baking tray in the bottom rack to prevent the bottoms of my loaves from burning prematurely. Now I'm going to place my Dutch ovens into the oven and preheat up to, well, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Yep, 500 degrees. Hit start. Now I'm protecting my tabletop with some heating pads, otherwise the table would have some very ugly scorch marks in it. To start off, we'll dust with some rice flour, put our loaves in, and here comes the extremely satisfying part, which is scoring your loaf with whatever design you choose. I like this leaf pattern. It looks very beautiful when the dough has baked fully. Lovely, so let's put the lids back on and we can go ahead and throw these bad boys into the oven. Oh yeah, look at that. Baby. Shut that guy. So the first process will be 20 minutes, and that is the rising section of the baking process, which is complete. We can take the lids off now. Now you can see that beautiful leaf pattern. And this is 10 minutes after. They're not quite done yet, but I'm going to take out that bottom rack so that they can fully bake. Here, I'm very excited.
If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing.
Just kidding. Not going to force you to subscribe, but of course I would appreciate it.
It'd be pretty funny if they're just like awful, right?
Huh?
It'd be pretty funny if
They're just like burnt to a
disgusting.
crisp. They're just absolutely terrible loaves. I'm gonna go right there, ready?
Now we are ready to take both of them out of the oven. I'm going to make a little rack for them to dry properly. They have to cool down to room temperature. Now I don't actually have a drying rack, but this is sort of a fancy way to use skewers to achieve the same result. I'm going to take both loaves out and let them cool down to room temperature. Here is some epic B-roll, which of course is completely necessary for this video, otherwise you wouldn't watch it and appreciate my hard work and effort which I put into making this ridiculously long video about sourdough bread, which I have just made you watch. Now comes the amazing part, which is the fruit of your labors. I'm just emptying out some olive oil and balsamic vinegar onto this plate here. They do it at Italian restaurants. I sort of stole it from them. Now here you see some salt. For some reason, I don't really know, but the oil and vinegar decided to make a religious symbol. Put it in the comments if you know what this one is. Absolutely delicious. I really enjoy homemade hummus on this bread, so that's what that is if you're wondering. Absolutely delicious. Definitely recommend doing this. Yeah,